My replica of the Harold Holt Swim Center is a house of lies. So after my last video, I got a message from a PhD student who's researching the colonial history of national parks. And they said, oh, I'd never heard about the Big Drift in Wilson's Prom being man-made before. Can you send me your source for that? So I went online and I started researching the origins of the Big Drift. And it took me 9 hours to get a straight answer. The story of the Big Drift starts with a man named Baron von Mueller, a botanist and the director of the Royal Botanic Gardens, starting in 1853. In the 1860s, farmers in southwest Victoria contacted von Mueller asking for help with a problem because sandy areas adjacent to their farms were growing and it was threatening to consume their pasture land where they fed their livestock. So von Mueller replies, it's an easy fix, build a fence, keep your livestock out of the sandy areas, and let the local vegetation grow back. And then for fun, you can introduce some invasive European plants, but the main thing is to build a fence, and the farmers said, cool, we're not going to do that. Fast forward to 1918 and a bunch of graziers in Yanaki, which is right where the Big Drift is next to Wilson's Prom, they had a meeting because they needed to fence off some of their pasture land to avoid sand drift spreading and consuming all of their properties. And the farmers said, well, we could fence it off, but then we wouldn't make money. So they didn't. So the sand drift problem worsens until 1935 when the Victorian government springs into action and spends £15,000 not on livestock fencing, on invasive marram grass seeds, and gets a bunch of Depression-era labourers to go and plant them, including at places like Yanaki, which is right where the Big Drift is. Remember how in the 1860s we knew that overgrazing sandy areas caused irreversible sand drift? Well, it turns out if you abandon your farm entirely, that is 100 times worse, which is what basically every farmer in Wimmera and Mallee were forced to do in northwest Victoria, because not only was there the drought of 1939, World War II kicked off and there was no international market for any of their goods. That led to two spiraling feedback loops. One was that the sand drift would clog up irrigation ditches, making it extremely difficult to feed cattle, and the other was that farmers became more dependent on forest and bush grazing until these areas became deforested, causing more sand drift, causing more irrigation problems, till it got so bad that in 1946 the Victorian state government launched a royal commission into illegal forest grazing. To summarize this report, it says that erosion is inevitable and will kill us all. Farmers are massively accelerating the rate of erosion, and they cannot be trusted to fix it on their own. And the most destructive farming practice that they identify is forest grazing. In this case, the state government leasing out crown land to graziers so that they can send their cows in and eat all of the greenery. And the problem is that once that land is leased, there is absolutely no oversight. These graziers can bring in as much livestock as they want, which exposes the soil, causes more sand drift, makes feed harder to grow, and every time we tried to put limits on this practice, farmers have done it illegally anyway. The report ends by recommending the creation of a soil conservation authority, which we don't do. And then in 1949, I found this picture of cattle ranchers at Yanaki running all of their livestock straight into Wilson's Prom through the Big Drift. So to conclude, the Big Drift was caused by beef, wool, dairy, and grain.